Okay. We have a packed house tonight. 4th and 20, week 12. We got the commish, and we have Frank, the half-baked owner. So we're here just watching the end of the first half here, and it's pretty wild. So we were talking a little bit beforehand, and Matt, you have a lot of the scenarios and things going on. We got Bob in here. He's got everything. He knows all the rules, all the regulations, and then Frank's in here. He's just half baked. But first and foremost, we had some controversy this week. I'm not even going to bring up the whole Whitus controversy. I really do think he paid Steve-O off. But the main one is the fact that any given Sunday is rostering a player who's taking PEDs. I mean, come on, man.
I mean,
I have something to say about this.
Yeah, because I want to rebuttal whatever you say.
Here I am last week, down in the dumps. I actually kicked my dog once because I was just so distraught of the accusations against me and my comments of Will Fuller. And, just felt bad. I gave you a D+ as a grade. And then come to find out, you're like Bill Belichick in the background. Like you knew it all along. And you bring this guy in and you make me feel bad. And this guy's cheating. I knew he wasn't that good. That's why that D+ sticks. That D+ sticks.
Listen.
Like I
so
just,
Matt, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, Barry Bonds, like
chicks dig the long ball.
Exactly. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
So Matt goes back down to a D+ for his draft grade, and not only does he go to a D+,
I take back my apology.
I'm still keeping him. I'll tell you that right now.
He takes back his apology, and Matt gets an F for integrity.
I like the fact that he's cheating. He's going to be better next year. I hope he starts juicing up Robbie Anderson and Justin Jefferson so they get even better too.
Get your stable right. All your juiced up horses.
The official statement is we support our player. The unofficial statement is whatever you got to do, Josh.
Oh, Matt.
I think Becker put out a hit on my players. I think he put out a hit on Joe Burrow last week. And then this week, he slipped a note to the NFL owner association.
I mean, you come at the commish, I can't help what happens.
Yeah.
Start making me say good things about Will Fuller when I knew he was a cheater. I knew it.
He went to Notre
That's
Dame.
why he runs faster than everybody. I told you. My very first comment about him is he's only a deep ball threat. Right? Well, that's why, because he's using horse roids.
What Bob did was he actually had Steve-O piss in a cup for him, and he sent it into the NFL and said, "Hey, this is Will Fuller's piss." Just say these are some high grade tranquilizers.
I have no receivers left on my bench.
Will Fuller has wildebeest blood in him. That's what Steve-O eats. This wildebeest and like grass shavings.
Oh my God!
He's a professional athlete. He's just taking what the doctors tell him to take. He's not a doctor himself. He asked the question, "Is this bad?" And they said no. So he took it. I believe him. I believe what he put out.
This was just supposed to be a funny joke, and it turned into a 4-minute thing.
And that's the end of the episode, guys.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week. All right, Matt, go ahead. Why don't you delve into what you had researched for us?
So we've been talking about clarity in the playoffs, and it's crazy. So we have 4 teams that are definitely in the playoffs. There could be some position swapping there, but you got to Whitus, I think, going to 9-3. You got Bob there going to 8-4. This is just our projections of what now's going on with the sleeper app. We got Hoover going to 8-4. Mokel going to 7-5. So, good for those guys. We're not going to talk about their teams because they're in. So next, and this is where it all gets very confusing, is you got Tim now projected to lose to go 6-6. Uncle Rico looking like he's going to 6-6. Then you have 4 teams that are going to 5 and 7. Myself, Western PA, H-Town, and Half Baked. So those 4 teams there are really going to be fighting with some spots. But I believe there is a scenario where even the teams that are going to 4 and 8, which would be New Day and Taco's Truck, could backdoor into the playoffs. So with that being said, with all those games of the 5 and 7 teams, I play Steve-O next week. So that automatically is going to knock one of us out of the playoffs. The winner of one of those games still has a shot, right? Then you got Western PA playing Tim. So you got a 5 and 7 team playing a 6 and 6 team. You got Half Baked 5 and 7 team playing Hoover. So let's say potentially both those teams loses. Now you have a scenario where you have New Day. If he gets a win against Whitus, he's at 5 and 7. You got Taco's Truck at 4 and 8 playing Mokel. If he gets a win, he's at 5 and 7. So you could potentially have a 5 and 8.
5 and 8, yeah.
A 5 and 8 team, because there could be 5 teams that could finish out their season at 5 and 8, meaning one of those teams could make the playoffs. And I didn't understand the tiebreaker, so Bob, why don't you come in and talk a little about what happens in that scenario while I get a beer?
Sure. All right. So I'll start over. Matt did a good job at breaking that down. I'm going to go back to the top for just a minute. And how I like to normally break it down is I talk about what we know. Okay. In the Permanis Brothers division, we know Whitus won that division. It's
Right.
a done deal. In the Hines division, I actually am going to win that. Even if I lose next week and Bill wins, I beat him twice this year. So I own the tiebreaker. He can't pass me. I'm going to win the division. Hoover has won the division. We also know that someone will win the Yuengling division. So you can count a 4th team right there, whether it end up being Tim, whether it ends up being Rico, or even Lance, I think might be able to potentially sneak in there and win the division. We know that we're going to have 4 division winners. The only other team that I think is locked in is Bill. He's already at 7 wins. So that actually makes the 5th spot. So I think I usually call it the best of the rest. Bill's not going to win the division, but he's the best of the rest. He's going to get that 5 seed. It looks like, as of right now, that 4 seed is going to go to the Yuengling division. So whoever wins that Yuengling division is going to have to play Mokel in the first round. Like, that's going to be the first round matchup. So that gives us 5. Those are the 5 that we know for sure. That means the remainder of the league, the remaining 7 guys are fighting for 3 spots. And I do believe you are correct. I think that there is still a chance that Rich and Eric could sneak in. Now, they both need some help, especially Eric. His points are low. He's only scored 1047 on the season, which I believe is the lowest in the league. So he's going to need some help, probably more so than anybody. And Rich's points are actually pretty good. So that's what we know for sure. Yeah. And the tiebreaker, for those of you that have been in the league for a while, do know this. For you new guys, it goes like this. If it goes head to head first. So if there's just 2 teams that are battling, whatever team won the head to head matchup, a lot of times what happens is it comes down to tiebreakers between intra-division opponents, and they'll like split on the season. So anytime that there's normally a group of teams or division opponents that went 1-1 on the season, it then comes down to points scored. So that's where things start to get very, very tricky. And then have all the games this week, are they all Matt and Lance are still fighting? So are Rico and Tim.
Yeah.
I think all the other games are settled, correct? Half Baked with the win. Yeah, Hoover with the win. Whitus with the win. And myself with the win. Okay. So those are still those games right there are still very, very big. Rico obviously does himself a big favor by picking up the win in that one. Knocks Tim to 6-6. He puts himself to 6-6, and then Matt, you too. You really cripple Lance and his ability to get in if you pull the win out here. But if Lance pulls this out, then that's you and Lance at 5-7. That's Half Baked at 5-7, and it's Flatliners at 5-7. So that's 4 teams at 5-7, essentially battling for those last 3. Well, not even if, yeah, that's as if Rico wins, then really you guys, it's those teams battling for the last 2, because that means we have 2 6-win teams.
Yes, but even if Rico wins and gets, even if Tim and Rico, if it finishes the way it's looking now, are both 6-6, you could almost have the opposite scenario where you have teams tied at 6-7 potentially, that then would go into the point differential or first head-to-head matchup and then point differential, because you could have Tim go to 6-6, you could have Rico go to 6-6. Again, myself against Steve-O next week, that's going to knock one of us out then automatically, but somebody else will go to 6-7 then. Western PA could go to 6-7 and beat Tim, could be left at 6-7. Rico plays you next
for sure
week.
But for argument's sake, what if Rico wins, that still makes 2 teams with 6 wins. So we already talked about the 4 division winners and then Bill making 5. Well, now there's an additional team with a 6th win. That's the 6th team. So now any team that's 5-7, there's only 2 spots left. For argument's sake, as of right now, like if the playoffs were to start after this week, only 2 of those 5-7 teams would get in. And Flatliners did not have a good week scoring. And if you end up going to 5-7, you actually outscored him by enough that you would pass him in points. Half Baked, let's see, 1135. He scored good. You would stay ahead of Frankie. And then Lance had a monster week. 25 difference. Yeah, I actually think if it were to end like that and Rico ends up winning, I think Matt and Frank would be the 2 teams that would get in at 7 and 8. I think Matt, you would be the 7 seed, and Frank would be the 8.
Let's just end it now.
Yeah, first year in the league. Let's take it, man. Let's take it.
Well, I think that says a lot about you two, though. Like fighting in for the playoffs with the rosters that you've taken over. I mean, I would say that's pretty impressive. Just look like Matt. What you said at the beginning of the year about your squad. You're like, dude, I don't even have guys that are starting that were kept.
Yeah, I think I'd have to go back and look, but I think my only keeper from last year might be Tom Brady. Like that literally might be it. I think I either traded or dropped or, moved pieces around like so. And I think, Frank, you're in the same. I
don't think I have any of the same players from the team. I think I traded everybody. Ryan, Ridley, Drake. Yeah, I got rid of Sutton, everybody.
Man, those guys sound like music to my ears. I got my squad right now.
Oh, man. So, I mean, as far as it being super crazy, if we look at some of the games next week some of the matchups. So, Matt, your matchup with Steve-O, because I'm going to be honest, I really don't think you're going to win. You're not going to beat tonight.
Fucking Green Bay defense.
You have a huge matchup with Steve-O next week. I don't know who you're going to play at quarterback.
Yeah, me either.
I know Steve-O's his team's got some COVID and injuries and stuff. So, I mean, that's going to be a pretty wild one. But that trade that you made with Tim, it might turn out to be kind of a good one with Eckler coming back if they start feeding him a little bit.
Yeah, not this week. Montgomery finally went off.
Yeah, I know, right? Trying to see here. Bob, you're like kind of in a tight spot too because you got some guys on the bye, so that could work out to Uncle Rico's in his favor there. I mean, you got two of your starters,
which that doesn't help. If Rico happens to lose this one and does go to 5-7, that doesn't help anybody else that's 5-7 because Rico scored the most points of anybody in the league. So if it comes down to points, unless somebody's beating him straight up and it's a one-on-one situation, something like that, then
Frank says he.
Well, yeah, that's where it gets tricky.
My team, I call my team the Giant Slayers. I beat a lot of the good teams.
That's the problem. I don't think it'll come down to. Yeah, you beat me. You beat Rico.
Beat Hoove, I think, once. Beat Hoove.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Mac Hoove.
I'm trying to look at some matchups here. Yeah, I got Mike Evans out. I got, CMC and Mike Davis out. Who knows what the Steelers and all that whole thing's going to look like.
That's what they play.
Well, and then let's
yeah,
also.
I mean, I don't love it.
Yeah, Bob. I didn't want to cut you off.
I think then Whitus looks good, at least on paper, early here.
Mm-hmm.
He's out Antonio Brown, which isn't a huge deal. And then, yeah, I mean, the big one for sure is Matt and Steve-O. Those are going to be looking like 2 5-7 teams. Like the loser of that is out. Like this is like a playoff week, a week early for those two teams. You lose, you're gone. I don't know if I could dial up a scenario where they potentially wouldn't be gone, but I don't know. I think it's starting to get tricky. And then Bill and Rich play. That's a must win for Rich. If he has any shot of getting in, he's got to win that game. And then same with Frankie. Sure, maybe we could dial up a weird scenario, but then again, Lance is playing Tim. That's an intra-division matchup with two teams that are, Lance is essentially a game behind Tim. He beats Tim. He could potentially take him over with the amount of points that Lance has scored this week in comparison to Tim. Tim had him beat in points by 65. This week, it looks like Lance is going to outscore Tim by about 38. So, if Lance were to beat Tim and beat him by about 30, he would get the tiebreaker if it came to points.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
and I don't know.
There's just so many scenarios because I get what you're saying, Bob, about the that extra fourth spot for that division, getting the 4 seed, but that 4 seed could still be if crazy stuff could happen and that 4th seed could still be undecided at this point. Like we don't know who that is, and it could be one of 3 teams.
Yes.
Yeah, that's wild.
I think I talked with Lance. Yeah, it's insane. I talked with Lance last night, and I think it's very difficult. Well, let me see.
It's different.
If this plays out the way it's supposed to, it's difficult for Lance because it looks like both of those teams are going to be 6-6. So that means he's going to need to beat Tim to put Tim to 6-7 and put himself to 6-7. But then even if Rico, that's the thing. I don't think Lance can actually win the division because the points from Rico are too much. I don't think he's not going to be able to overcome the points. Yeah. So even if I beat Rico next week and Rico goes to 6-7, I think Rico's going to get that because of the points he scored.
Well, but that's only saying that
because I assume not one of those teams
Tim right now, though.
Say that again.
Rico's playing Tim, so he could go to 5-7, and then he could go to 5-8. So
if he goes to 5-7, that's what Lance needs.
Yes.
Lance needs Tim to win this. If he has a chance to win the division.
Well, no, you're right.
Because that would knock, and then
if Tim wins this game, then Rico can't catch him, or then Lance can't catch him. Because if Tim wins, he goes to 7-6. If Tim wins this game,
No,
the
but
division
Lance
is-
could potentially jump Rico if that was the case. Because
Yes.
they'd both be 5-7. If Lance beats Tim next week and I beat Rico, then Lance jumps over Rico and Rico's out,
correct.
which would be insanity looking at that roster. The fact that we're even talking about him not making playoffs.
I still can't believe
Yeah,
that. I mean,
Insane.
it's wild. All right. So we kind of
Top
looked at
scorer in the league is sitting at 5-6. So,
it's wild too, and it's not like he's been out. He's had a lot of points hung up on him. It's
Right.
really weird. It's really really weird. It'd be interesting to go back and see what his point totals were, like if he just had like really big weeks and then he had really bad weeks, kind of thing.
right.
Let's see here. I was trying to look at something real quick. Oh, it was the other big game would be Tim and Lance, and that might be even loom larger depending on what Tim does with his matchup with Uncle Rico. So that division turned out to be one of the more exciting ones to watch end the season this year, just because
Right.
I think that's the only division that's up for grabs. And it's crazy to sit there and look at all three of those teams and to see that it's up for grabs. Like you'd think that Rico would be running away with it.
The most likely scenario here is that Tim goes to 6-6. Rico also goes to 6-6. So now you have 6 teams with 6 wins or more, right? So then you have a 6-team winner coming out of myself and Steve. So that would be your 7th spot. Then you have 2 other games going on. You have Half Baked versus Hoover, and you have Western PA going versus Tim. So one of those teams wins their games next week. That's your 8th spot. And Tim could be at 6 and 7 as well. So that there would be 8 spots then filled up. You know what I mean? That's, I think, the most likely outcome. But there's just so many scenarios that could happen. And in the way the league's gone throughout this entire season, I wouldn't be surprised if one of them happened. If all the 5 and 7 teams lose, except for, either me and Steve, because one of us has to win.
Right.
This is the
So-
most insane first season of any fantasy league I've ever been in.
I've never, and Hoover can back me up on this. We've had some tight runnings and some tight division races, and we've had a lot of, honestly crazy things happen over the 16 years of the GFFL, however long it's been. We've had, like Hoover's mentioned before, that 1 seed almost seems like a curse sometimes. That the 2 seed has seemed like a curse at times. Where the 8 and the 7, do some damage once they get in. And, I've never in the history of the GFFL ever remember all 12 teams being in it until the final week of the season. Like typically there's 2 teams out of it by now. And we're talking about 10 teams, fitting into 8 spots, and it's a lot easier to play out. But we could dial up a scenario where Eric could get in, and we can dial up a scenario where Rich gets in, or where Frank gets in, or Lance gets in, or somebody else doesn't get in. There's just so many things, even still right now, that we don't know. And you got to figure too. I don't think that. Well, do any of these teams that are sort of in limbo, these games in limbo now, are they relying on the Steeler game at all on Wednesday?
Tim
Oh, yeah. We got Steelers defense from Tim.
and Juju.
Yeah, he's – and Juju. Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah. And if Lamar doesn't play, I mean, that there's potential there. RG3 could throw some pick sixes. And
this is the absolute, I know it's my first year in here, same with Frank and some other guys. This has been the craziest fantasy 1 year league that I've ever, 1 year of fantasy that I've probably ever been a part of. And I guess, Becker, question for you for some of the new guys, because I'm unaware as well. For the guys that don't make it, what happens and how's it decided on who gets that first pick next year for the draft? Is it the automatic guy that finished last in the regular season? Is it the guy in the playoffs? How does that work?
Okay, so once again, the GFFL is a little different in this regard. A lot of leagues, they end up playing like a loser's bracket, and there's a little loser's bracket tournament thing, and we don't do that. If you do not make it, you are out. Nothing you do from that point forward will matter. And it was actually just voted on last year. This is just a reminder to everybody. When you are eliminated from championship contention or from cashing, you are not allowed to make any more moves. You're done. You're locked. You can't pick up free agents. You can't do anything. Your season is over from that point forward. We've had some issues in the past where, and not that I blame guys. I saw it from both sides. There was a little bit of an argument with what people felt and how they thought. And, I get it. Somebody that's out doesn't mean that they don't want to potentially, pick up a keeper if they saw potential in somebody late in the season. I think that ultimately that's very highly unlikely, but I don't want somebody that's not in the playoffs stealing players away from somebody trying to win a championship. Like this league it's $150. I've played in a lot of different leagues, and I see a lot of different leagues, and that, being up over $100 puts it into the sort of the next echelon of fantasy leagues. There's a lot of leagues that are 25, 50, 75, $100. This league being at 150, the payout for first place is $950. Like, that's a lot of money. That was just voted on. So once you're out, you're out. And as far as the draft goes, it's essentially in just reverse order. So, like, let's just say, for argument's sake, Rich and Eric both finish the season at 4-9. It would then be, who won that matchup head to head. If Rich beat Eric, then Eric has the first seed and Rich has the second seed, or the second pick. I'm sorry. Eric has the first pick, Rich has the second pick, and then whoever the other two teams are that don't make it, obviously record counts first, and then head to head. And if there's a split for some reason, then it goes to points. And obviously the least amount of points would be rewarded in that scenario.
I think
thanks for that clarification.
Yeah. I think one cool thing to look at after this is all said and done and we have a champ and everything is to come back and look at some of the moves that were made and just see how they were affected. I mean, we could sit here and say, oh, well, Lance, he was packing it in for next year and he ends up making a playoffs or whatever. I mean, it's not like he's having his team try harder or anything, but to see the effects that'll have. Cause Lance even said, it's like, I'm kind of packing it in and trying to get ready for next year kind of thing. And I know, Matt, you talked about it too. And, maybe it changes, who you start some weeks or not, or I don't know, but I would love to see how that affects the draft board with all these different changes. Cause I know you could see what some guys were thinking and doing. And, so I think that might be something interesting to look at after the season.
Yeah, and so after the season then, Becker, when the championship is decided, does that open it up then again for free agency? Or when does free agency open to make trades and stuff like that before you have to decide your keepers?
So the league takes a little bit of a shutdown once the fantasy season's over. We've always done it this way just because I think one of the things that makes this league so successful is the fact that the way it's set up now, we force the best teams to drop high caliber talent that they, a lot of the really good teams have more than 8 keepers. They have keepers that a lot of teams would keep. So if we kept it open and I allowed teams to trade all their excess talent away, those teams I don't think would ever have to go through any growing pains. They would always have draft capital. They would always be picking up picks. So what we do is once the fantasy season is over, we sort of shut it down. So the Super Bowl is usually the first week in February, and then the NFL draft is in May, correct? Or April or May?
Late April.
So we choose our keepers about a week or two after the NFL draft. So we will do nothing from season end until the NFL draft. And then, I'll get a hold of everybody, let everybody know, hey, we need to have keepers in by this date. And then we select our keepers. Once keepers are selected, it is then opened back up where trading can begin. You can't pick up any free agents. Anybody that gets dropped goes into the free agent pool and will be available for the draft. But at that point, you can then begin trading and stuff again, and it'll remain open up until draft day for our draft. And then we'll draft and do it all over again.
Ross, awesome. I appreciate that clarification too, because I know coming into it last year, I didn't really get to see what happened behind the scenes before I became part of the league. So I didn't necessarily know that's how the league, handled the conduct after the championship game, which I actually really enjoyed. Appreciate.
So I know that we're kind of maybe wrapping it up here, but one thing, I've talked to Matt a lot about, his thoughts on the league and stuff like that. And Frank, you've been pretty quiet, so I'm curious, what's your thoughts about the league and, if you've enjoyed it or, what's different about it that you like, maybe, something that you'd like to see done differently. I'm just curious, what your thoughts are.
To be honest, I'm a bit of a fantasy junkie. Bobby knows I'm in 8 leagues.
What?
And actually potentially be in 8 of 8 playoffs if I can make it in the GFFL. So, but I love this league better than any other league I've ever played in my life. I've done keeper leagues, but I've never done a dynasty league where you control your team. Everybody in this league is active. Other leagues, people, $50 league, like Bobby said, people don't stay the whole year. They give up. They're not making moves. Nobody's talking. Nobody's trading. I've never been in a league where people want to deal draft picks or you can actually mold your team. You feel like you have full control in this league. It's something I've never experienced in fantasy football. Like, it's opened my eyes. Like, I don't want to do anything but like dynasty leagues.
Well, yeah, and I agree. I think the most interesting thing that I've found about this league is like when I put a player or a couple players on the block, like within 5 minutes,
you're getting messages.
I'm getting messages like, "What are you looking for?" If you do that in any other league, like unless you approach somebody about a trade and then you have to like give the farm away to get somebody. So I appreciate, I guess, that, maybe because it's $150, maybe it's just because, hats off to you, Bob, even though you hate Will Fuller, you run the league so tightly that you get guys that are invested and involved regardless of the amount of money that's on the line, that are active, or else they don't participate in the league anymore. But I think that's what needs to happen, because if not, you do kind of have that fall off where you get guys that are out of it earlier in the season. They're at week 8 and they're sitting at 1-7, 2-6, whatever, and they kind of just pack it in, not worried about setting a lineup, throw their starters in and just leave them there, missing guys that are on buys that week that aren't playing. And you're like, man, fuck, I took a loss to this guy, one of his only 2 wins back in week 2. And now in week, 9 through 14, when I'm fighting my ass off to get in the playoffs, he's letting a team that I'm fighting my ass off against get a free win. And you get pissed off about it,
That or like it lets other teams pick up guys off waivers because they don't care.
Right, because they should be earlier in the waivers in that type of league, and they're not paying attention. So, you have guys out there that should get picked off by a team that needs them that they just don't give a fuck anymore. So I guess I really appreciate how well-rounded the league is and how active everyone is, even though Steve didn't start 2 guys.
Yeah, that was a –
But
Hoover's been there.
What's that?
Yeah. Yeah. I was just saying that
he's apologizing to everyone in the league, and also really the only guy he really hurt was himself.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
Those guys know, Hoover and Steve-O and Lance, those guys have been here since the beginning. I mean, they've been here through all the growing pains or, different things that we've done in the league. And they watched me firsthand. If you were less than what I wanted, you were just gone. Like, I just kicked you out. Like, there was no question. There wasn't any debate about it. Like, I knew in my head what I wanted. So that's what I did. And then later on, once I had, a solid core, we've had people bounce in and out a little bit here and there, but once I had my core, I then started looking a little bit more into personalities of players and trying to get a good mix of people. Some people, like obviously Steve-O posts videos, and obviously they're funny. He's talking a little bit of shit, and he's doing, but it's great. And then we got guys like Hoover and myself that are often a little more conservative, and you got guys like Frankie and some of the new guys that have come in that are kind of spark plugs and kind of get things going. And so I take a lot of pride in the league. I love this league. And I mean, it's, I look back at it and I just can't believe how far it's come. And it makes me very happy to hear, so many different people say how much they love the league and how great it is. I mean, that's really awesome. And I say this all the time. It's not just me. I mean, you guys obviously make it what it is too. If it wasn't for you guys, then I don't really have a league. But yeah, I appreciate it, and I think this league is the best. I do play in other leagues. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but I mean, yeah, you can't. I've never found a league that can match the action like Frankie just said. Like, there's no other league that I play in that people talk or people are doing the things that they do in this league, and I don't know. Sometimes I just think maybe I'm just really lucky that I got 12 guys that seem to do this and do it the way, we all sort of do it the same way. We're all active and doing things all the time. So,
yeah, I know I had to submit a resume to get in. So, just letter of recommendation.
I didn't make the vote the first year, Matt. I had to wait 2 years to get in.
No, but that is
true. Frankie didn't make the cut the first year. Actually, it is funny. Like I do my homework. Like I talked to Hoover and I talked to Rich Boozy about you, Matt, before you got in, and it's I do that for everybody.
I said, don't let that fucker in.
Well, so that's when Hoover asked me to do a podcast, I said, well, I'll do that because at least if I'm shit in the league, maybe they'll keep me just for entertainment.
But yeah, speaking on Steve-O, that honestly, somebody doing that in the past has been a fireable offense. Like you've been kicked out if you did something like that. But obviously, Steve-O is, his track record speaks for itself. Like he's not that kind of player. I believe it was an honest mistake. And, like you said, it ultimately didn't hurt anybody but himself. So, it's not something that. Obviously, I think if he plays a couple players in those spots, he wins that game. And,
he could have changes the outcome of his season. Yeah, he could have potentially won this week and be looking at 6-7, playing me next week. And even if he takes a loss, then still getting in if the alternative happens. So the only guys that really, he pretty much helped everyone else that didn't have a winning record just with how close it was.
Yeah. And
right.
I've said it before, and one of the wild things is I'm pretty sure of all the people I mean, you could probably even say of all the teams, it's Steve-O, Lance, and myself. I used to have it in a spreadsheet, and I quit keeping it. But I think this is the first year or second year I quit keeping it. But the three of us have made the playoffs since the keeper has started. So it'll be interesting. I know Steve-O, that's something that, he always prides himself on cashing. But, I always talked about how I always kept track of who's continually made the playoffs. And one of the things that could be interesting is that I could be the last person to have always made the playoffs.
Ooh.
I mean, I hope that Steve-O forgets to set like 3 or 4 players next week. Since
I heard who was resting the starters. That's what I heard.
I still don't understand how that works. I don't
listen.
Rest them for what?
The bench warriors. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh. Well, I can't play any more Tampa Bay running backs.
So,
go ahead.
So I'm going to do something a little fun. I know we're getting ready to wrap it up. Just to kind of close it out here. We can start with the new guys, and then we'll go to Hoove, and maybe I'll go last. But so assuming we know what we know, let's get a little prediction. Here. Who's going to win? End up winning the Yuengling division to make that 4th team, and we know Bill being the 5th team Who are those final 3 spots going to? You know, who are the 4 teams that miss out? So, Frankie, start it up.
Oh, geez, on the spot. Let's see. I mean, I gotta say, I think I'm gonna hit the A seed. I gotta be confident in myself.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like I can make the A seed. Let's see here. I think if where's the matchup stat really quick? Hold on. Let me look at next week really quick. Oh man, dude, this is insane. I think if I think Rico's in there, possibly. And
so you think Rico wins the division, or Tim, or Lance?
Oh man, the division. I think Tim's gonna win the division.
Yeah, because it looks like you think Tim's gonna win the division.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
their game is getting tighter and tighter. I mean, Tim is now, 3.4 points away, something like that. In prediction.
Yeah, this is just insane, dude. Like it's.
Well, actually, I'll start it up and give you guys, so I don't throw anybody on the spot. I actually think Rico holds on and wins that game, which ultimately sets him up. I think actually Rico's going to beat me next week. I don't love my matchups. I think with CMC and Mike Davis out. So I think Rico wins this week and then wins next week to go to 7-6. So I think Rico is going to take that 4 seed. We know Bill is the 5th seed, so that sets up a Rico-Bill first-round playoff matchup, which is big. I mean, those are 2. We got Mahomes and who's Dalvin Cook against the team that Rico has on paper is very, very good. I also think that Whitus beats Eric next week and locks up the number 1 seed. Matt, I hate your quarterback situation right now for next week. It's not good. But there's potential that Steve-O doesn't have Gurley. Thielen should be back, so that shouldn't be an issue. On paper, looking at it without diving too deep, I think Steve-O gets the win next week and he slides in. I think man. I actually think Lance wins next week and slides in. Holy shit. This is nuts.
It's just, dude, it's
I actually think
impossible
Tim
to tell.
might miss. I think Tim might
You think
miss,
he's going to lose
to
to
be
Lance
honest.
next week?
I think he's going to lose this week, and I think Lance beats him next week. Lance has been hot. He's come on strong. He doesn't have DJ Moore. Oh, man. But that would put them both to 6 and 7. And I'm assuming Lance with the points, he'd have to overtake him by points.
Well, Lance
so
said
I'd say Steve-O, Lance, and Frank get in. Teams that miss would be Tim, Rich, Matt, and Eric. That's sort of what I think.
Next week's going to be insane.
And honestly, somebody's going to get in. I think somebody's going to get in at 5 and 8. I think you're right. I think that 8 seed, and I actually think it might be Frankie. I think his points are high enough. His points are higher than Eric's. I think. I think Rich loses to Bill next week, so he maybe goes to, he'll be at 4-9, so his record won't matter. So, I think Frankie, you might get in at 5 and 8.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough to beat Hoover
again. End up playing
again.
Whitus in the first round. So the bracket would be Whitus versus Frank on the very top, and then it would be Bill versus Rico, and then Hoover and I have Hoover winning next week, so Hoover would be the 2 seed, and he would play Lance, Hoover and Lance, and then it would be Steve-O versus me. for the 3 and 6 seed.
It's like so hard to even look at it and like wrap your mind around like who you think could win. Like there's some. I will say this. I feel like who was it? Not Rico. It's Tim's team.
I like his matchups next week.
Or not Tim's team. It's Lance's team. Him without Moore and him without Gronkowski. Like I think those are two pretty big losses, especially in a game where you need your best. And you kind of just scroll down and
Gibson going against Pittsburgh defense.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah.
But
I liked him to win that division still. But go ahead, who?
No, I was gonna say, but the thing is too, like you look what the Steelers gave up to the Ravens that 1 week, and then James Robinson had a pretty good game against them as well. So I mean, it's not necessarily too out of the realm, but I just think
it's just hard for me. I've been on the negative train with Tim's team ever since we started talking about it a few weeks ago. I mean, he started 4-0 or something, didn't he? He was up there.
He was top dog early. I don't know if that was
he's
the
like
record.
2 and 5. He's like 2 and 5 in his last 7. You know what I mean? I just, Russell Wilson hasn't been as good. He was super hot early, and then he sort of trailed off. Jacobs is a little banged up. Does Jacobs even play next week? I know it's just an ankle sprain, but I don't think that they're going to risk it if there's potential for further injury there. Juju's so hit and miss that
Yeah, but
I mean, what do you get? You get the Juju that scores 2, or you get the one that scores 22?
I like Landry right now as his.
Yeah,
as his
talk about the Browns.
Like I don't like the Browns. Let's get that thing out there right now. But I like the chemistry that he seemed to have with Baker. So I think Landry puts up a lot of points for him next week. Russell is playing the Giants next week. I don't know. I just look at that matchup, and Indy had a stinker this week. They play Houston next week, so I like their defense to kind of show up the way they've done all season. So I think that takes Deshaun Watson's value down a little bit. And I'm talking about a guy who's beaten me this week. Obviously he can put up a lot of points because he's putting up fucking 150 of them against me. But I don't know. And Tim's lucky,
Yeah, that is true. He's so lucky.
I don't like to give him credit, but I think he ends up squeaking a win out next week. That's not to say that he ends up winning that division because, there could be a scenario where, like you said, they tie this week. Rico beats you next week. He outscores Tim by enough to still take the division and get that 5 seed. But I actually have both Rico and Tim making the playoffs in some fashion, whether, one being the 5, the next being maybe the 6 or 7 or something like that. That's the way I look at it.
I mean, I prefer Tim to not be in the playoffs, but I don't really have much control over that. Unless I could talk Bob into just, putting some kind of algorithm in there that doesn't allow him in, that would probably be a good thing. Yeah, like that's what I'm looking at. I think Rico, he's going to get in, especially if he picks up this win against Tim. And, it'll be interesting to see with
it's just so hard. If he wins this one with the points that he scored, him not getting in.
Right.
Like, he gets that 6th win. All the tiebreakers are going to go to in his favor at that point.
Right.
So even if he doesn't win the division, he's in. I think Rico's in for sure with a win this week.
Now, we're sitting here talking about like who's winning and this and that. There's still some time left in this game, Matt. You're not like it's a little freaky, but 6 points. I mean, 13 points, dog.
The whole game this week has been like I've been like the little engine that could. Like every time I get a little bit close, somebody shuts the door. So I look for Carson to break one on his next possession for about 50 yards and a touchdown, and that'd just be a wrap.
But the thing is, if they get down in the red zone, man, that's going to be enough points if he scores a touchdown, unless it's like a 1-yard touchdown.
Yeah, I mean,
you got to punch your pants, man.
Outside shot. If I win tonight, I'm getting in. I don't care if I have to go QB for my team next week. I'm getting in.
I mean,
if I get in tonight, I'm I'm keeping Goddard next year. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree. If you pull this out tonight,
Yeah,
man, it would be you'd have to have some really bad luck next week. And then that hurts Steve-O a lot because now he has to win just to tie you, but he would have the head-to-head. But I assume that there'd be other teams, that would make it come down to points. But yeah, this is still 15-yarder to Goddard for a touchdown, 7.5 points. I mean that puts you on top.
A damn sack.
He's out there, man. He's running routes. He's grinding.
I mean, I'm not going to hold hope on a white dude from I don't know where it's college.
I think, bro, you're full of it because you're going to sit here and watch the rest of this game hoping that happens.
I am. Then I'm going to go upstairs pissed off, and my wife's going to be like, "Why are you so mad?" I'm like, "Shut up."
What's your problem? Oh man. Well, Bob and Frank, I appreciate you guys jumping on, and maybe I'm trying to think here. We'll have next week. Maybe we can figure out something to get you guys back on, and we could talk a little.
We got 3 teams on Monday night, I think, too, right? Is it?
It'll have to be Monday. Yeah.
Let's try to plan for another Monday. I think just with the amount of games that are going to be left on Monday.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm free.
Maybe try to do it maybe before Oregon halftime of the last game, because I think that'll be kind of interesting.
We should have some clarity then.
I swear to you, if we don't, I don't know what. We're no more shows. We're done.
Nobody will know until we turn on Sleeper next Wednesday.
Yeah,
and find out how it seated everyone.
There's just so many scenarios. We can have a bunch of 6.
Yeah, I remember.
Just insane.
Yeah.
Lance
I remember Sleeper didn't do a great job last year. Well, yeah. Well, let's go. I've been telling Lance for weeks he should get on here. But yeah, the Sleeper didn't do a good job last year at dealing with our playoff seeding, if I remember correctly, or maybe I'm thinking of the other league or the other site we used. But the 4 division winners are going to be 1 through 4 in the seeding, and then obviously it goes by record and head-to-head and then points. So I mean, I'm on top of it. So like the moment that those playoff brackets come out, I'll look them over and make sure they're right, and let you know when they're fully live. And if anybody has any questions at that point,
I will tell you one of the. I would imagine
it's going to be fun.
Last kind of tidbit for me is I would imagine that, out of the three division leaders and Mokel, or maybe Mokel doesn't care, I don't know. But, we're all watching to see where Rico falls and where we fall in that playoff bracket because nobody wants to see his team, even though regardless of whatever.
That's a tough team right there.
Yeah. So, I mean.
Yeah, highest point scored, and if he doesn't win the division, I actually, I wouldn't mind Rico getting that 4 seed and then Bill having the 5 because that's 2 fairly strong teams that are going to play each other in that first round, and one of them's going home.
Yeah, that's true.
Which knocks them out. But crazy things have happened. I remember one year, I think it was Dane. I think Dane called Lance out and said Lance was the team he wanted to play in the playoffs. And Dane was the 2 seed, and Lance was the 7, and Lance came in there and smacked them up.
What's the lowest seed to win the GFFL?
8.
8.
I'm pretty sure I won it as an
Hoover won it out of the 8 with a 5-8 record. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, let's root for the underdogs, Matty. Let's hope we sneak in, Matt.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie. The guys that come in, I swear, every year there's 1 or 2 teams that make it deep in the playoff.
This league it's just been the same. I've lost 2 games this year by less than 3 points. Like a coin flip, I could be a 6-win team right now or a 7-win team. Like it's insane. Yeah, this league is ultra competitive, dude.
I've lost like 3 games.
Well, not only I won. I won 2 games by less than a point.
Yeah,
I mean, I could very easily be 5-6 right now with Bill have won this division, and I'm in the same boat as you guys. Like, it's just craziness. Wow, what a play, DK. What a play.
Oh, and I did also want to talk. One of the cool things you guys are talking about the league and things you like about it, and it was wild. I was actually in talks with Rich about making a trade, and that was when Matt and Billy were down visiting me. And I was, kind of running by them like some of the things that were going on. And it was so crazy because it was like I made that trade. And I'm like, man, I just made my team a lot better. And I was really happy with myself. And then like a few minutes later it was like ding, ding, Bob, he makes another trade. And I'm like, what the heck? I thought I was just getting ahead of him. And he makes the trade. It's just crazy. It felt like, not that Bob and I have a rivalry. I don't think that would be like a rivalry of the league. But it felt like the Yankees and Red Sox, like trying to make those trade deadline, who can get the pitcher in there, get that arm and, make the run in the postseason. It was so cool, though, to like kind of like feel how that was happening and how everyone was making moves. Even it felt like the NBA trade deadline. So I thought that's something that I loved this year about the league.
Well, yeah, I'll give you a little background information here. Rich and I were talking at the same time, and I had a deal on the table to get Allen Robinson. I mean, I thought, to be honest, I thought I was good. From what Rich and I's initial conversations were, and what he was looking for, I matched what I felt he wanted in that trade. And
he just wanted
obviously, I knew, he was honest with me. Yeah, I mean, he was honest with me. He
Chris
said,
Carson
hey,
just scored.
I'm shopping him. I'll let
Carlos
you know.
Hyde.
Oh, no, Hyde.
No, that was Carlos Hyde.
That was Hyde. You're still good, man.
But yeah, no. So like I met him where I thought his price point was, and I was just sitting tight. I wasn't, I thought, okay, I'm good there because I wanted Robinson over Mike Evans, and like that in my head, like that's what I wanted. So I gave Rich what he wanted. He told me he was shopping him, and I'm like, okay, obviously all I can do is sit and wait. And then that comes through and I'm like, damn it. Like, now I'm pissed. And then so I ended up giving up more for Evans than what I wanted to. But yeah. I mean, kudos to Rich. I mean, he played the scenario perfectly. He knew what he had on the table with me. He pushed, to get what he wanted from you. He liked that a little bit better. And then still ultimately ended up getting what he wanted for Evans, which, was a first rounder. So, that's just funny how this league works. And, it's trade deadline, a couple days before the deadline. And we got, some teams in here making some deals. And, I wasn't aware of who Rich was talking to when he was shopping, Robinson out. But obviously I knew whenever that ding came across and saw it was you.
Well, I really had to work to get him to budge on Robinson. And I couldn't get, I paid a little bit more of a price tag than I wanted to because at first it was just the deal for Evans. And my big concern was, Antonio Brown coming in, and you just don't know what the heck's going on. And so like and then I had the think tank with me and we were talking and, we all sort of were like, Allen Robinson, you try for him. And so, like I said, I had to give up a little bit more, but it's funny how that was all working out like behind the scenes. And Rich, he's a dog, man. He's working us over, man.
Yeah. I think I worked out a deal while I was down there too with same weekend for Eckler.
Yeah. It's been crazy. Well, boys, it's past my bedtime. I need to go to bed. But, Matt, you enjoy watching the rest of this game. And, Rob, thanks for hopping on. Frank, thanks for getting on as well. And
no problem.
Best of luck to you next week. Who knows? Maybe I'll crap the bed for you.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting week.
It won't be the first time. So, but anyways, thank you guys for jumping in. And I know it was a little bit longer, but, man, there's so much to talk about. And, if you guys want to come back next week, it sounds like we're going to get Lance to jump in with us, which will be cool. And, it'll be awesome.
Should get the whole league on.
Yeah, all 12 of us on here.
Yeah, someday that would be great, man. Get the whole league on.
Yeah.
Someday.
That would be pretty cool. But all right. Well,
all right, boys.
We'll see you guys later.
All right, boys. Later.
Have a good one.
Later.
Yep.